The Boy Who Saw the Wind is a fantasy adventure movie which I found totally by accident. I was just looking through, I saw the picture to it, and I thought this looks really cool. It kind of reminds me of something that you would find coming out of Studio Ghibli in the late 80s, maybe even early 90s. Keep in mind this did come out in the year 2000, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I still thought it looked really nice, and it had a pretty interesting sounding premise to it. Basically, it was about this young boy who had a special ability that allowed him to interact with the sun in certain ways as long as it was out. He could fly, he could give life to things which are dying, and also he could control light in certain ways. And a lot of these abilities he had to learn about and didn't really understand because, I mean, a lot of people really aren't like that. And his father was some sort of scientist or engineer who did some sort of experiments with his ability in order to create a source of energy, which was for good. You know, a typical father-son outing of why don't you use your magical ability into this giant tube so we can create human-made solar power for everybody in the world. And yeah, I guess that's kind of like a normal fatherly thing. I don't know. But anyways, there's this evil army which does what evil armies do, and they try and go and conquer the world. And of course, they want this sort of ability so they can create a new bomb. And the father dies, resulting in the boy going off on an adventure of his own. So as far as the story itself is concerned, I felt like the introduction was really weak, honestly. It was just this train wreck of time skips. It starts off showing something that happens after the end of the movie, then it goes back to the present, then it goes back to the past, then it goes back to the present again. And I think this is like within the first 10 minutes of the movie, so it is really all over the place, and I can imagine some people are going to be confused by this. And I couldn't help but shake the feeling that maybe the producers thought that the introduction was going to be a bit bland for some people, so they wanted to cut it up and put a few pieces here and there to make it a little bit more exciting for people when they start the movie off, which might have been the case. But after Amon's father dies in that car accident, he becomes the center of this the army which is trying to take him in order to use this ability so that they can create more bombs. So he's going to different places in the world, like he meets with talking bears, which is one of his ability. It allows him to speak to animals. And then he also goes to this tribal village, which I want to call like the Monster Hunter life, because just seeing these people, it kind of reminds me, I know that's kind of what people did, that's how they lived a long time ago, but it just reminded me of playing the game Monster Hunter, where you have people on the ship with the spears, they're like trying to fight these giant fish, and it's like killing people, and I thought it was really cool just to see these things. The movie is around 2 hours long, and I felt they didn't accomplish nearly enough to warrant the movie being as long as it is. I felt like the story that we're seeing here may be 45 minutes, and I think the story could have wrapped itself up nicely, but it's kind of like they place a lot of random events here and there in the movie, like we want to have a big chase scene right here, we want to have a song over here, and I felt like the song was really out of date for it as well. You know, everything about this movie really feels like it's out of date, like it was something that they were working on and they shelved it, and then they picked it up later just to finish it off. But to the story's credit, Amon does receive a bit of character development due to his experiences in traveling the world and also the people he meets along the way. The story does a pretty good job of creating some drama here, as some of the characters which were somewhat irrelevant to the overall plot of the show do die off at some point because it is a war going on, and I felt like they did a good job at world building and creating this fantasy atmosphere as we see him fly around and go to different locations in the world. We really do get to see a lot from the village, from his hometown when he grew up, and then also we see some of the parts with a big evil army as well. And I know they have a name, I just want to call them the generic evil army because that's what they do here. Now, my favorite part of the movie was easily its art and animation, because I thought it's something that looked really good for the 80s. And then I realized, like, the movie actually came out in the year 2000, produced by Studio Brainbase, and yeah, it's really dated. I don't know how they managed that. It kind of feels like something that may have sat on the shelf for such a long time and just never got out there, because I swear I could have seen like dust and grain and everything on it. I don't know. Maybe it was just the version of the film that I have, but it just didn't look its best. And I think it probably would look a whole lot better if people had remastered it from the originals, because I felt like there was a lot of clarity issues in watching this, but I still thought it looked pretty good. Personally, I feel like this movie has the potential to become just a decent fantasy adventure movie, and mostly that is due to just how long the movie is. If they had cut it down to maybe 45 minutes, at most an hour, then it would have been pretty decent, I think. And I still recommend this to people who are hardcore fans of fantasy adventure movies, and even then, I think if you've seen a fair amount of them, you probably will find this just to be completely average. But I mean, it's there. If you like what I show in this video, then you can go ahead and check it out. But it is a really long movie, and it's probably going to bore you halfway through. So have you seen this? You probably haven't seen this movie. Let me know what you thought about the review. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.